This is Alicia, and welcome back to the EAV podcast. As I mentioned last week, this is MS Awareness Month. March is MS Awareness Month, and I have been, basically thriving. I like to say thriving with my MS since 2010 when I was officially diagnosed, even though I was experiencing the signs and symptoms prior to that diagnosis. But I have been, really blessed with how I have been able to manage my MS. For those who have been listening to the podcast, you know that I don't take any medication for my MS, and that was a decision that was based off of, really trying to have a holistic approach to managing my MS symptoms. And that's not for everybody. So I just want to be clear about that. Not everyone is able to go that route. And for those who have been going that route, and it works for you, that's great, like myself. And, I know there are others out there that do the same. But, for those that are, taking any medications, I encourage you, to continue to do that. But then also, make sure that you're doing things that are beneficial to managing your diet, your exercise, the whole gamut. This week, though, I wanted to talk about something that I have been dealing with, and a lot of women around my age have been dealing with, which is perimenopause. Menopause, as most people have, heard it, throughout the beginning of time. Let's be serious. I shouldn't say the beginning of time, but y'all know what I mean. Um, I am 47 years old. I'll be 48 in May, which is still kind of like, wow, I can't believe I'm that. I can't believe 48. Like it's wild to hear it when I say it out loud. Um, but I'm in that stage where I am experiencing the whole perimenopause situation, and you know, it's something that I at least I'll say for me, I can't say for anyone else. I never thought that I'd be in that position where I would be experiencing, menopause. Like, I mean, it's coming up at some point, but it's like, oh, when you're in it, it's like, oh, this is it. I will say, for me, and this is another thing for me, and this doesn't pertain to everyone, but for me, what has happened for me during this time since I've been in this perimenopause phase, it has not been as intense as I thought it would be. I know I can attribute what's going on with me to how I manage my diet. I am plant based, vegan, however you want to call it. I don't uh, consume animal products. I every once in a while I'll have some honey, and so because of that, I don't completely take on the entire vegan I guess name if that's how you want to say it. But yeah, I think a lot of what's going on with my body right now in terms of like having any intense symptoms with my perimenopause phase in my life right now, I think I can attribute to, my plant-based lifestyle, and then also being mindful of trying to take away stressors in my life that would create more inflammation in my body. I'm always thinking about the inflammation in my body because of my MS, and so I feel like a lot of the symptoms are not as intense. And at the same time, I will say I still feel things. So, brain fog has been something that's always been an issue with me prior to me being perimenopausal. And I feel like now it's more than ever, my brain fog. And I wanted to read this article to you guys about it because there might be some folks that are listening to this actual episode that are like, oh my gosh, yeah, girl, I am in that stage right now. And I don't know if it's my MS, the perimenopause, or both. So yeah, I found this awesome article. It's from the MS Society. It's called Menopause and MS. We ask the expert. And so the expert they, had reached out to was Dr. Caroline Winnington. So the article starts out, it says, most women with MS will experience menopause. We sat down with the researcher, professor. Oh, actually, you know what, y'all? I totally flubbed this. Well, erase that. They sat down with Professor Ruth Dobson. She's a consultant neurologist and professor of clinical neurology at Queen Mary University in London. So, scratch Dr. Caroline Winnington. Hello. See, this is what I'm saying, the brain stuff. She actually wrote the article. This is my either MS or perimenopause hitting me right here. So, charge it to, I guess, my head and not my heart. There we go. But it says most women with MS will experience menopause. We sat down with researcher Professor Ruth Dobson, consultant neurologist and professor of clinical neurology at Queen Mary University, London, to discuss what we know about how menopause can impact MS. So what? So they asked her, what made you want to research menopause and MS? And so she says, in the clinic, I've seen many people face the challenge of their MS symptoms worsening during menopause. As we keep people healthier for longer with DMTs, which is disease modifying therapies, we notice more of the non-MS things that cause challenges in their health. From a research perspective, I'm interested in women's health throughout the whole course of their lives. And menopause is a huge part of that. The next question they asked, what do we know about how menopause affects the symptoms and progression of MS? So she goes on, Professor Dobson goes on to say, we know some things, but there's still lots to learn. Some studies suggest that MS can worsen during or after menopause, but others haven't found a link. These studies are based on healthcare records, so they focus on things like walking ability. They don't capture the full experience of people living with MS. Because menopause is closely tied to age for most people, it's difficult to separate menopause effects from the natural process of aging. The challenge is that many common menopause symptoms like bladder problems, sexual dysfunction, hot flashes, fatigue, and cognitive fog are also common in MS. I can't even read today, y'all. We also know that some menopause symptoms could worsen MS symptoms. For example, hot flashes can make MS symptoms worse while they raise the body's temperature, just like hot weather can cause a temporary worsening of symptoms. This uncertainty over whether symptoms are due to MS or menopause can be frustrating for people with MS and clinicians too. For some, it can bring back the feelings they had when they were first diagnosed, when symptoms felt unpredictable and confusing. And I have to stop there because I don't know if I told y'all here on the podcast. I had shared this on social media, but for years, I have taken hot yoga classes. Heat was never really a thing that affected me with my MS. For years, I would attend hot yoga classes. I could be in the sun and it wouldn't bother me. But as for the past year or so, maybe a little bit over a year, maybe almost 2 years, I have been experiencing um, major reactions to being exposed to warmer weather or like hot temperatures. I had to stop taking hot yoga because of that. My vision was being affected. I also was having some balance issues that I normally uh, wouldn't experience from being in the heat. And it really did take me back to when I was initially diagnosed and trying to wrap my head around the things then that I was, looking at and thinking, okay, you know what? I can't do these things anymore because of my MS, right? Um, and I had to like alter and adjust how I, moved through the world. And now, going through this whole menopause thing, I am now, in a space where I'm realizing that heat sensitivity is something I am now susceptible to. And it's so interesting to see how our bodies change, um, and how we have to adjust, right? MS is it's a very unpredictable disease. And for those of us who have been diagnosed for a while, we know that oh too well. And I had to grieve um, me not being able to attend hot yoga. And for some people, they could be like, Alicia, you're being dramatic. But no, I'm not. Because hot yoga was one of the things that I loved to do to move my body and to remain healthy. And it was hard because I thought I was doing something good for my body. You know what I'm saying? And then to know that even though this is something that can be good for some bodies, it's not good for my body. And uh, that was a hard pill to swallow, very hard pill to swallow. And just to come to terms with that, I have to refrain from doing things like that in order to continue to live, a fulfilled life and not have additional complications like with my vision or with my balance or anything else that could, manifest if I would have continued doing hot yoga. And it's funny because the day I had scheduled a time to go to a hot yoga class, I had already scheduled my class and this, that, and the other. And I was outside the yoga studio just in tears because I had said, you can't, my body was telling me, like, we can't do this, Alicia. We can't do this. You need to cancel the class because it's obvious that this hot yoga is the thing that's causing more harm than good. And that was a rough day for me. That was a really rough day for me. And I'm pretty sure, my other MS warriors out there can tell me endless stories about how certain things, there was a moment where you had to have your own, like, come to Jesus moment with yourself, or maybe somebody had it with you and you had to face the music about something that you didn't want to admit was something that you had to stop doing. Um, yeah, that was a tough, tough day. And it's funny, I thought it was interesting that the article mentioned, this as well, because I think a lot of people, and maybe people are aware of this or not. I don't know. Either way, I think in some ways it's just shedding light on how MS looks so invisible in many ways, and then other times it's not. Um, but a lot of times it does present as this invisible disease, and we're telling people how we feel as opposed to them seeing it. So it's just like, what? And every once in a while they'll probably catch on to things like, I don't know if you guys have noticed sometimes with my speech, it's like my brain's trying to get out the things that I'm thinking through my mouth, but there's always like, sometimes there's like almost like a clog, if that makes sense. It's like I know I want it to come out, my mouth is prepared, but it's like that connection is like a short circuit. It's like, and then eventually I can get it out after I'm like, I've kind of revved myself up, if you will, to do it. But it's just, yeah, the small things, if you're paying attention, you could see it. But like I said, a lot of times it does appear invisible, which sometimes can be frustrating because you're constantly telling folks, oh, I'm telling you, this is really happening in my body, The article goes on and says they asked Professor Dobson, what do we know about the science behind this link? We don't know enough yet. Most of our understanding of MS comes from animal studies, but there are very few species that go through natural menopause and then live for a long time afterwards. Menopause has also historically been ignored in research due to cultural and social factors. But this is changing. We've learned a lot. We've learned a little, I'm sorry, from studying pregnancy. During pregnancy, estrogen levels are particularly high, and there can be a relative remission in MS. We know that estrogen can affect the immune system, but we need more well-designed human studies looking specifically at menopause. We also need to know if the changes during menopause are temporary or if they cause lasting changes in disability. Can you tell us, this is the next question, Uh, can you tell us a bit about the PhD project you are supervising, looking at the lived experiences of people with MS going through menopause? So, for her PhD project, Imogen Collier is doing an in-depth interviews to understand the lived experiences of people navigating both MS and menopause. She's looking particularly at some of the uncertainties and challenges that people have with the aim of using the information to adapt and improve clinical services. She is trying to capture the full spectrum of experience, including those who have gone through menopause early and those who were diagnosed with MS while they were perimenopausal. Imogen has also collaborated with the UK MS Register on a questionnaire and is analyzing the results now. Her initial findings show some interesting trends. About half of those who are currently perimenopausal reported a difference in their MS symptoms compared to only about a quarter of those who are postmenopausal. This suggests that when you're in the midst of it, maybe it's harder to work out what's MS and what's menopause. She also found that about half of the people she spoke to had taken or were taking HRT, which is not human, it was hormone replacement therapy. Sorry, y'all. And like the rest of the population, they were also trying a range of other treatments. Imogen is also using the data in the register to look at how the MS severity scores track across menopause. The article goes on and says, should all women with MS be offered hormone replacement therapy, which is the HRT, during menopause? HRT isn't necessarily right for everybody, but I think all women with MS should have the chance to discuss it and decide based on their personal situation. It's about taking a holistic, personalized approach to care rather than just thinking about all the symptoms from an MS perspective. For example, for some people with bladder symptoms or sexual dysfunction, topical estrogen can be life changing. What advice would you give to someone with MS approaching or going through menopause? She says, talk to people about it. Talk to your MS nurse or like your, primary care provider. They say GP because it's in UK, or your neurologist. Try not to over worry. Not everyone has a terrible experience of menopause. Some people breeze through with no problems at all. Focus on treating your symptoms. So if your symptoms do worsen, focus on treating the symptom rather than going around in circles trying to figure out the exact cause. Finally, remember that there are many treatment options beyond HRT. Non hormonal approaches like supplements, exercise, mindfulness, and cognitive behavior therapy can have a huge impact on quality of life. It's also important to view it as a period of change and flux. Symptom changes aren't necessarily permanent. Everyone's experience with MS and menopause is different. Focus on the support and treatment that's right for you. And yeah, and then at the bottom of this actual article, which I'll share in the show notes, it has more information about menopause as well as some other information like articles and stuff at the bottom, which I really appreciate. So if you want just to, like to, go down the rabbit hole, I guess if you want to call it that, more as it relates to menopause and MS, there are three other resources down here to give you more information. This is a wild time in my life. Dealing, like I said, dealing with MS as well as dealing with this whole perimenopausal situation. I hope this has helped somebody. It's helped me because I think a lot of folks, not a lot of folks, I'm saying it's helped me because I feel like in some ways, you're constantly trying to find what should I do? What, is this going to be better? Is this, is this option what I should, do for myself? Or you're constantly like back and forth, back and forth. But I love the fact that is this particular article and Professor Dobson is bringing like more of a calm to it. It's like just kind of like breathe through the process, find out what's right for you. A lot of this, even with MS, a lot of it's trial and error, and a lot of healthcare concerns are based off trial and error. Management when it comes to like finding the right fit for you. So This is another thing where we have to figure out what works best for us and not just do something just because we have been told that it works for one person because it might not work for you. So just be open to, trying different things and being willing to listen to your body as well, especially during this time because our bodies are going through so much. Beyond just having the MS diagnosis, the whole perimenopause and menopause component brings on a whole other host of fun things as well. So, if anything, I say just take care of yourself, take care of your body, listen to your body, be kind to yourself because it's another transition in our lives, especially at a time when our bodies are just already in a space of just like, I just want to chill. At least I'll speak for myself. I'm always ready to like hit my bed. I love, at the end of the day, my favorite place is my bedroom and just chilling out. Not because I'm just, fatigued and everything, but, we're getting older, that's a part of it. And so for me, already, having to deal with the whole day of, working and dealing with all those things, compounding all the other things with my MS and perimenopausal stuff, it's like I need to get somewhere and sit all the way down. So yeah, y'all, I will share. Like I said, I will share this article in the show notes. We will get through this whole perimenopause menopause thing together, y'all, one way or another. I'm glad that you know we're shedding light on this during MS Awareness Month because I feel like a lot of us, even with MS, sometimes we feel like our diagnosis and this disease that we're dealing with is not as it's not as discussed as other diseases. Even though I've been seeing a lot more information about it, mainstream, which is more like prescription medications that are out there. But even still, like this is major because I've never seen so much attention brought to MS, and I welcome it. And I hope we continue with that and continue with the research with not only women that are dealing with perimenopause and menopause, but just MS in general and how we can find a cure for this. Thank y'all for listening to this week's episode of the Eat Me podcast. I will see y'all next week. All right. Love you. Bye.